having Juliana talk, because I need to tell you a little bit about my background as well. So I used to be a career consultant, outplacement counselor. Is that term familiar to you? Yes. I actually managed the career consulting practice for KPMG. So for 9 years, I helped people, and my significant roles started when the people left the building. Actually, right after they got the news, they would meet with me, the terminated people, and I would help them with the next steps and moving forward and all of that. I would also coach leaders on how to conduct the terminations, similar to some of the things Juliana was saying. And I think we all have seen things go well and things go off the rails. But what I'm going to focus on is sort of the impact of the people who are left in the organization, and talk a little bit about harassment and bullying. What does it look like? And give you a bit of an understanding of it, and most importantly, leave you with some thoughts in terms of what do we do about this. So let me just get started on that. So when we think about the impact of terminations on the people who are staying, and Julianne's already touched on this, but I just want to go through these. You have to understand kind of where people's headspaces are at. So sometimes there's a tremendous sense of relief. Have you ever been involved in a layoff and, whew, wasn't me? Has anybody had that feeling? You know, or I wanted that person to go, so now I'm relieved that they're gone. Followed quite often by, oh, now I feel guilty. You know, that was a single mom, sole income provider. Part of my feedback helped that person be terminated, even though they didn't tell me that. I know, I wanted them to go. Now I feel guilty. Or I feel guilty because the people who were laid off without cause, because our business slowed down, I have a working spouse, they could have laid me off. So there's all these kinds of emotions going through people. Fear and anxiety, is it gonna happen again? Is it gonna happen to me? I've been through this before. Is this the last round? People go into survival mode. And what that means is, what do I need to get through the day? What do I need to keep my head down? What do I need to do to survive in this new environment? You get into unproductive behavior. Have you ever noticed that after you do a termination or a layoff that there's a lot of people talking? You know, little clusters at the coffee pot. Oh, did you hear they let John go? And so, you have that kind of thing. And one of the things people don't always realize is the unproductive behavior takes a different approach as well. People, when they aren't sure about what the boss is doing or what they're thinking, will spend a hell of a lot of time, pardon my language, thinking about, what are they up to? So instead of working, they're trying to figure out, how do I survive in this? And what is my boss doing? You also get into anger, and Juliana mentioned that, I'm angry at the company because they let my best friend go. I'm angry that they made millions and yet they still feel they need to do a layoff, all of those kinds of things. There's grief, I'm sad because, people I cared about are gone. The rumor mill goes wild, have you noticed that? And it's really interesting because the boss will go and close the door with the HR person. They may be talking about training or vacations or what have you, but everybody's assuming the rumor mill goes crazy and it's, okay, I know what's happening here. People are overworked. I hear that all the time. I go into organizations where they say, well, they laid off 2 people in my department, haven't replaced them. Now the 4 of us who are left have to pick up the slack. And you get into self-protective behavior. What do I need to do to make sure I'm safe? So am I going to help you do what you need to do? Well, if I'm worried about, I want to look good, I want them to need me, maybe I won't be as helpful. But anyways, what all of this does, it's stress and change. And what it means is that the dissatisfaction and the fear, when people are living through that, sometimes their worst behavior comes out. So just think about it. You know, maybe I'm mad because discrimination has happened. And maybe I'm mad at you because you got to stay and my friend had to leave. So can you see where right away I might be, you know, my behavior towards you might go down. You also have things like people may be feeling they have to compete with each other. You know, we've all got to work hard and compete with each other in the hope that, you know, I'm not the next one. Of course, there's organizational pressure, as I've already touched on, to do more with less. So what is the point of this? All of this sets up a perfect storm where people aren't necessarily behaving their best. And it can lead to a situation where things like harassment and bullying start to become more prevalent. It's like people just lose some of their coping skills. So I want to talk a little bit about what is harassment, what is bullying, and then we're going to go further. So harassment, this is from the Canadian Human Rights Commission. But what is harassment is a form of discrimination. I think that's important to note. And it can be verbal or physical. It's like you're picking on someone. And in the case of harassment, it says makes unwelcome remarks or jokes about your race, religion, sex, age, disability, or any of the 11 grounds of discrimination. We know in Alberta we have 13 grounds. But it's threatening or intimidating, making unwelcome physical contact, so sexual harassment is a part of this. So has anybody here ever dealt with a harassment situation? Yeah. Was that fun? No, it's tough, isn't it? Anyway, so bullying, let me tell you what bullying is. And this is out of the government of Alberta. They have wonderful resources on bullying. But they say it's a repeated pattern of behavior. So it's intended to intimidate, offend, degrade or humiliate a person that the bully's target. So with bullying, one of the things, and I'm going to go through this in a little bit more detail, but one of the things that's different between harassment and bullying is that harassment, you've got grounds that are protected in harassment. Bullying doesn't have those. It's usually, it can be, but you can have a bully who's also discriminatory, but the bully may not be discriminatory when we look at human rights. So how frequent is bullying? According to the Canadian Safety Council, 1 in 6 people report that they've been bullied in the workplace. Did you know that? Would you have thought it was that frequent? And 1 in 5 people have witnessed bullying in the workplace. So I find that kind of staggering because we don't really talk about bullying in the workplace a whole lot. So let me just talk a little bit about how these two are different. So harassment is a form of discrimination, as I mentioned. Bullying is a type of harassment. So sometimes it's called, I've seen it called personal harassment, workplace harassment, because it's not under one of the protected grounds. When we look at harassment as a form of discrimination, they're looking at something outward, something about the person that they are targeting, an outward characteristic. Whereas when you look at the bullying, it's an inward characteristic. So it's a very subtle process, but you can't always, by looking at the person, you might not know that they would be the subject of a bully. According to, there's a wonderful website out of the UK called bullyingonline.org, and they say harassment is done to dominate, whereas bullying is done to make the bully seem more competent. So why do bullies bully? Probably make themselves feel a little better in some way. So when it comes to harassment, it can be pretty easy to recognize. Do you think you know if you've been harassed? If someone's made a harassing statement? You probably are pretty aware of it pretty quickly. However, when it comes to bullying, it can be more subtle and harder to recognize. Bullying often takes a period of time, and the bully can do, little attacks, little moments. And the person being bullied, it might take them a long time, if ever, to even realize that's what was happening to them. So it's an accumulation of incidents with the bully quite often. The other thing that's really hard about bullying, and that's why I'm going to spend the rest of the presentation actually talking more about bullying, it is often done in private. So there are no witnesses, and it's one person's word against the other. And the bully, you know, they can be very clever in terms of how they select a target. And so, you know, bullying, it's like harassment, as you know, you have to have good evidence. With bullying can be even harder. So let me give you an example of how a bully might work. So we'll keep the table group back there. So the 5 of you are working together, and one of the person has a tendency to bully. I won't ask who it is at that table, but anyway, what the bully will do sometimes is they'll kind of test the waters. So they'll ask something inappropriate or say something inappropriate to one person, and then they gauge the reaction. So they do it with, is it Marsha? Yeah. Marsha. So they'll kind of poke at Marsha, and Marsha will say, that's not appropriate, to stop that. And then they'll keep going, and finally they get to Ryan, right? So they get to Ryan, and Ryan kind of laughs awkwardly and doesn't know what to do with the statement. And the bully says, gotcha. Let's see how far I can push you. So they kind of look for a vulnerability in the person. But what they seek to do, they want to make the target feel unsure about themselves. They may feel guilty. They may feel helpless. You know, they may start to doubt themselves. There's no witness, there's no evidence, and as I mentioned at the back table, 4 or 3 of you may experience the bully one way, but the target is having a very different experience of that same person. So you know how you go and you look for witnesses? Well, it may be harder to find. So to keep going, you know, sometimes people say, I'm not bullying, I'm managing. So bullying can be disguised as management. I think the big difference is when you are managing, you are looking at the interests of the organization, and you're being objective, fair, and you're looking at standards. And there's a concern for dignity, respect, all of those kinds of things. Organizations can be bullies. Has anyone ever worked for a bully organization? I have. A bully organization, what they do is, and they call it management there, but overload people with work. And then if you start to say, wait a minute, I can't get the work done within this time frame, you know, this is too much. Oh, you're a complainer, you're a whiner. Suck it up. So there's a subtle message of, you know, you go until you drop and you don't complain. There was a joke that circulated on the internet a few years ago, you know, and I apologize, it's a little rough, but it said, you know, people are dying at their desks, and, you know, people have to stop doing this, but we work them to death sometimes. So organizations can set that up. So, you know, you may have seen that. And if they tell you, oh, we're a competitive environment, but there's a real toll that this takes. So things that we do as managers, though, definitely don't fit into bullying. You know, if we're giving constructive feedback that's meant to help the person grow and improve, that's not bullying. If we're managing performance, and that may include following a disciplinary process, progressive discipline, it may even end up with a termination. That is not bullying if we're doing it in a fair and just manner. Making legitimate business decisions, no, you're not going to get promoted. And there's very specific objective reasons why not. That's okay. And enforcing policies. So, you know, when you look at, it's always, you know, is it applied fairly across? And is it objective? And is it in the interest of the best interest of the business, also recognizing, you know, that we want to keep our people whole? So why do people bully? I touched on this a little bit already. NAMI and NAMI happen to be 2 of the biggest people who are doing a lot of research and a lot of really great work into bullying. They have a workplace bullying institute online. But what they feel that the bully is desperate to dominate. They feel powerless and only value themselves when they're in control. So Who do they choose to bully? Often the target does nothing. You know, they just decide to pick on you. And it may be just jealousy or control, you know, it's not really clear. But often the target has some vulnerability. So for example, take the case again of the single mother, sole income provider for her family. So if, you know, the bully might say, this person really needs their job, so that's the person I'm going to target because I know I can get away with more. So they may be looking for a bit of a vulnerability. So you may be wondering who targets, who bullies rather. So I've seen statistics as low as 56% and up to 90%. Often it's top down. The boss is the bully. Has anybody experienced that? Yeah. So, you know, but they could be customers, clients, they could be co-workers. You know, bullies can come from different places. I have even seen bullying up from a direct report. Their behavior was bullying. But according to the Workplace Bullying Institute, most of the targets are women. 60% are women, 40% are men. And this is according to their 2014 study. And when you look at who bullies, 69% of the bullies are men, 31% are women. So you think women would be nicer to women, right? Well, the truth is, men target women 57% of the case. Remember, they look for vulnerabilities. 43% of they target men. And when we look at women, 68% of a woman's target as a bully, the target of the bullying is a woman. So, kind of sad, right?
That's not very nice.
No. Okay, so have you ever seen these kinds of behaviors, bullying or harassment?
Yeah.
I want to give you a chance to think about what have you seen. What I'm going to get you doing is have a little conversation at your tables. And I want you to have a little bit of a discussion for a couple of minutes about what kinds of things have you seen that you think may fall into bullying in particular or harassment. You know, what kinds of experiences have you had? So let me give you a couple minutes for that.
So when she kept the knife back in the days, like, can you tell me about this? What do you know about
All right, let's share these experiences.
And I gave her a paper, like, this is tax return. What do you know?
So what kinds of things have you seen? Have you seen happen?
No, the next day.
So everybody goes silent at the
Maybe you can share what says, what happens in Vegas, stays in Vegas.
Okay, I know what the problem is. We don't have a ghost hiding through it.
I could share. I actually have two examples just to illustrate what you were talking about from top bottom or the opposite. So I worked in an organization where I was reporting to a supervisor, then that supervisor had a director, and then there was sort of an executive director. And that executive director really, there were so many people that had other roles, but this person actually was looking into and being involved in matters that we didn't understand why at that position. And so with certain parts of what we had to provide and explain, if you will, in my organization's terms, as to some of the expenses that we could ask for because of the nature of our jobs. She wanted to override policy, just basically using her positional leadership role or her positional managerial role to say, no, you just provide it. And we would question, so the newer people amongst us were like, okay, we're going to give it to the person or to the executive director. Others would say, why are we being asked for that? Mm-hmm. And just to really in agreement with what you were explaining, how long does it take, and also a long time for us to address it as a bullying situation. Mm-hmm. And then when we actually arrived to one of us on the team saying, you know what, that's really bullying. she has no right to ask us for that because this is what the policy says. And this is where it started gaining momentum and we all started coming out, if you will, and saying, you know what? Yeah, we all feel the same. And so that was one of the examples. The other was just I experienced this in a newer organization. I was a newbie for some time, and amongst us, from one of the colleagues, anything I said, there was a put down. I'm a very optimistic person. If things are not going well, I'll really strive to think of, well, you know what, we can do this. And it was like, no, you can't. I've been here long enough, and I'm telling you, you can't. I'm like, okay, maybe I don't know enough, I haven't been around enough. And so you start feeling vulnerable because you're lack of knowledge, your lack of experience, and that, but you don't recognize that it's bullying. Yeah, but then I refuse to take that. I take it as a bullying, it's not bullying. Yeah.
Good for you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's control, right? In the first case, why are they bullying? Because they have the power. They want to control. So, they demean, belittle you, make your ideas sound bad. So what are some of the things that we have? Bullying behaviors, gossiping, spreading rumors about you. Bullies try to do one of three things, and this is again according to bullyingonline.org. They want to isolate us, they want to control and subjugate us, and they want to eliminate us. What's really interesting is if they're successful at the third one, they usually wait a little while and then they find their next target because they get something out of it. But anyways, gossiping, spreading rumors. This is a partial list, by the way. Blaming others for errors. They may take credit for the things that people do. They make unreasonable job demands. They may withhold information, give misleading information, interfere with the person's ability to do their job. They give invalid criticism, fault finding, blaming, nitpicking, all of those kinds of things. They may apply rules and policies inconsistently. They exclude and isolate. So, the target sometimes feels like they're all alone. Other people avoid them, but, they try to get that person completely isolated. They don't take them to meetings, they don't take them to coffee, all of those kinds of things. They'll single them out, treat them differently, threaten or humiliate, and belittle and degrade. And this is just the start. They're rude, they're hostile, they may yell, they may use offensive language, may say offensive things, undermine the person in front of others. But when I said isolate, control, and subjugate, like the control and subjugate is basically having their ability to do their job. Trying to control what they do, messing with them as they're trying to do their job. And if it happens to be the boss, the eliminating, they put them through progressive discipline. You aren't doing your job. And, if it's not well into, then, the bully may get away with that. So there are costs associated with this. So what I'd like to do is ask you to just have a couple of minutes discussion at your tables. And what I'm curious about is, what do you think it costs the target to be bullied? What after effects does it have, or immediate effects, and also for the workplace? And then I'm going to ask you to come back and share what you think some of those costs might be.
Just like sick days, personal days that aren't for. Yeah, like if you're on for example, if you're on a company that has like maybe a bigger performance or like more compensated for or like commission or something, and then you're getting but all the time you might not be performing to like your
Yeah, for the workplace, I suppose it's not a distraction. You just really understand the cost for the workplace to investigate these things.
I think because of the scope and how many people engage in our experience and how the deal like it's in your business to things like those get out work spreading around for these types of investigations. Everything like put everything down. That's like all you do. I'll make sure that I talk to everybody about it so I can have a recommendation by the end of the day to report to the union president as well as like the director of HR. Essentially, this is what we need to do based on these conversations. Let's do it tomorrow morning.
So in terms of costs, I mean, you have to use a lot of resources.
Yeah, I mean, like, it puts, like, not just these people, but also,
You're right.
yeah, with my team.
Yeah. And I would think that it's happening on the team, because that team's great.
Because all they see is people.
And even prior to that, the team tried to function.
Well, yeah, because they spend the whole time just messaging each other. Like on that chat, executive transcripts of like a full conversation for like days and days and days. And you're reading through all that stuff that you see.
Because people begin wanting to move on to fix this problem. It's honest, they don't feel bad. Just make his life. I did my job. I was there for the other person go
Okay, I'm gonna interrupt you. So let me ask you, what do you think the target, what is the cost to the target of the bullying? What kinds of things did you talk about?
There's a cost to their confidence, to their self-esteem, psychologically, and in terms of their further.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So psychological and productivity can take a hit. What else?
You said it could even like affect their wages, like if they have to take sick days or anything, time off is because like they just can't come to work anymore because this person is like putting them down all the time.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, they may even lose their job, right? So there's a definite impact. What else?
Well, we were talking whether or not it's an individual themselves, or if it's in a large organization, maybe a group of individuals that then come together and act as a group. But if you're kind of like on your own and stuff, like you said, how do you prove it? How do you document if this is just the way they are, or they're just micromanaging everything, right?
Yeah.
Like where's that line? So if you're experiencing it just on your own, you kind of feel isolated, right?
Yeah. And I'm going to talk a little bit about, what do your coworkers do when they see bullying? And, that is really kind of stunning. But, when you look at the person who's being bullied, they pay a lot of costs. But before I get to that, what about the organization? What happens in the organization? So, Barb, in your example, if the group gets together and say, I'm being bullied, what happens?
Well, I'm not experienced. I was just relating to
Yeah.
and I said, well, how do you move forward as a group if it's the person on the top that's doing the bullying? Like what recourse, what steps do you take?
And I think it starts becoming more of a positive moving forward, but it's the strength that you derive from each other that you're all feeling it, that you're not singled out as such.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where, in my experience, yes, we did take steps to try to stop this. But yeah, we were talking about the same thing. If you're on your own, how do you even define that it is bullying, or that it's not just in your head, or you're feeling this and it's very subjective.
Yeah, for sure.
The workplace suffers, it becomes like a toxic, insecure, unsafe environment, at least for those being affected.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's sad but true that the person who is targeted, according to one study, will spend 10 to 52% of their time logging other people to support them. Like going to other people and saying, is this happening to you? You know, I just had this happen. So it does have a great impact. You know, and it does go beyond and can create a real toxic environment. Sometimes if you have, you know, you can even have camps, you know, one who's on the side of the bully, the other side saying, no, we're not. So, you know, you get all kinds of things. But here's some of the significant costs. Psychosomatic illness. That doesn't mean they aren't real, but headaches, fatigue, stress, anxiety, frequent illnesses, they may sleep too little or too much, you know, so sleep disturbances. And then we have real physical illness as well, growth and increase in things like infections, IBS, skin problems. Anybody here have eczema? I know I do, and I know what happens when I'm super stressed. It comes out. And you know, there's evidence suggesting that extreme stress causes much worse illnesses. For example, cancer. I have a member of my extended family who's just unfortunately been diagnosed with cancer. And when she said, you know, why did this happen? I'm a very healthy younger person. And her doctor said stress probably played a part in this. But when we look at the research, you know, multiple studies suggest that somebody who's got a bad boss is 50% more likely to have a heart attack than somebody who doesn't. So talk about real health. Hypertension, you know, high blood pressure, so that's another one. But beyond that, you know, PTSD, people who've been bullied can have PTSD. It's like a sword. They may end up in depression. And they may even end up on permanent disability. I just cannot go back to that place. So, and think about the other, you know, the loss of self-esteem as we talked about, you know, and all the impacts. So, and it can impact their family life as well. Because when they're going home and they're saying, I hate this situation I'm in, I don't know what's going on, I can't stand the thought of going to work tomorrow, has a big impact on the family. In the workplace, poor morale. You know, I mean, if one person is garnering support, I mean, it can affect the whole team. You have decreased productivity, both from the people who are bullied because they may be so busy trying to defend themselves, or they may be suffering from this person is sabotaging my ability to do my job properly. But the other team members can get into it as well. We have increase in grievances. We have greater turnover. You know, if you I remember getting called into organizations, and I do similar work to Juliana. I get called in because the boss would say, there's something wrong with the people in my workplace. In this one department here, nobody stays more than a year. And I don't know why. They tell me it's because they're getting more money somewhere else. When I hear that, my spidey sense is tingling because I know there's something else going on. But anyway, your bully people may leave, but your good people may leave as well because they can't stand to watch it anymore, especially if nothing is being done about it. You get an increase in absenteeism, you get an increase in short-term and long-term disability, you get increased EAP costs, increased benefit costs, increased conflict in the workplace. There is the potential for violence and lawsuits as well. It impacts everything. You know, it can impact how people deal with their customers, all kinds of things. So let's talk about a little bit more about the impact of bullying. So according to the Workplace Bullying Institute's 2014 study, So what happens at the organizational level if somebody says there's bullying going on? The research is not happy. 12% of employers will seek to eliminate bullying by creating policies and procedures, 11%. 10% will acknowledge that bullying goes on and actually show some concern for the target. 6% will condemn bullying, give a zero tolerance policy. So what do the others do? 25% deny that the bullying is going on, didn't happen. 16% discounted, oh, come on, you know, it wasn't that serious. 15% rationalize it, that's just business, we're in a competitive environment. 11% defend, and that's especially if it's organizational and if the executives, coming from the executives is down, they'll defend it. And 5% will actually encourage bullying. Isn't that scary? Anyway, so that's what happens when you ask what happens in organizations about bullying. But this is serious business. I want to share with you 2 recent cases that were in the news, and some of you may have heard this first one. This just happened this February. This is the headline: horribly bullied teen commits suicide. So Kenneth Sutner, I think we need to talk about Kenneth Sutner. Kenneth was a 17-year-old young man, had been bullied his whole life. School was no picnic for him. And then he went to work at Dairy Queen. And his boss was by all reports, the worst bully of all, the worst offender. They called, in an investigation, they called him a primary actor. So she called him names, she threw a hamburger at him when she thought he didn't do it right. She made him lay on the floor and to clean the floor. So she was named by an investigation, a coroner's inquest, as a primary actor in this. And as a result of that inquest, manslaughter charges have now been filed against her. But the organization doesn't get off the hook either. According to the inquest, Dairy Queen was found to have negligently failed to properly train employees about harassment, prevention, and resolution. So there's talk about human cost, you know, and I did mention that before, but sometimes targets commit suicide. Sorry. Anyway, the second one, it happened in Sweden, and it's a 30-year employee in the human services sector. He started working with some new people and was bullied to the point where he committed suicide at the young age of 53. And I'm not sure what that is. Oh, okay. Anyway, the bosses, 2 of the bosses that were guilty of the bullying, that were found guilty of bullying, were actually criminally charged. They had to pay fines and they had prison sentences, suspended prison sentences. So this is serious business. And in Sweden, they said that workplace safety laws had been violated, causing another's death. So courts are starting to take this more seriously. We all need to take this more seriously. Thank you.
It's like literally it's taken the life out of something.
Yeah. So the question becomes, you know, sometimes we have to ask ourselves, and this is a good question because if we are working with other people and someone comes to us and says, I think I'm being bullied, you can ask them these questions and help to see whether or not they are. So the first one is, okay. So, you know, would this behavior be considered acceptable by most people? You've heard of the reasonable person standard? Would a reasonable person see this as legitimate action or legitimate comments? How would another person say? So, you know, you gotta ask yourself that question, and that's a good question. You know, you can ask the person, well, what are they doing, and does it seem reasonable? Another thing, you know, are you finding you're spending a lot of time defending yourself or seeking allies? You know, do you find you're taken away from your job by trying to protect yourself? You know, do you find yourself spending a lot of time worrying about interacting with that person, wondering what they're doing, what they're going to do next, all of those kinds of things? And a really key one is, are you losing sleep over it? You know, if it's Sunday night and you're thinking about facing that person, thank you so much, on Monday, and you know, you're getting a knot in your stomach, you're getting a headache, you're having panic attacks, you know, those are all signs that something's going on. So let's talk about what do we do. So here's some advice for the targets, and again, we can help the targets with this. This is courtesy of the government of Alberta. They have a great tip sheet on this. So what are some of the things they say? So if you think you're being bullied, start keeping a log. So you want to think about what has happened. And here's the hard part. You have to depersonalize it and not state what you felt. Yeah, that's a part of it, but you have to say what actually happened. Came and said this. Came and did this, sent me this. Okay, so dates, times, frequencies, number, because remember, bullying is cumulative, right? So it's not necessarily, usually if it's one act and it's that bad bullying, someone's noticed. But it can be more subtle and over time. So you need the person to keep good records. You need to keep documents received from the person. So if they're sending you letters, emails, texts, you know, take copies of everything, put them in your file. You also, if you're a good performer, by the way, bullies often, did I mention, they seek competent people. Also, they may look for someone who's competent, popular, and ethical. So the ethical person says, that could never be their intent. They're a good person, right? Anyway, so, but because your performance may suffer, keep past performance reviews that prove you're a good worker. Maybe think about references who know you at a better time that you can call on as well. So if they start saying you've got a performance issue, you've got backup to protect yourself. You want to try to continue doing your job well as much as you can. You want to avoid being alone with the bully. So if you can, you know, try not to have conversations with them in private settings, or maybe bring a buddy along if it's not too awkward. You want to avoid isolating yourself, so stay connected with your coworkers. And the last one is sometimes people are tempted to bully back. Don't do that, it just makes it worse. So what if you've tried all these things and it's just not working? Well, in some cases, you can tell the bully to stop it. If you feel strong enough, you can say, I know what you're doing. You know, you've done this, this, and this. And that's just not acceptable to me. I had a friend, she worked for an organization, and they were taken over, and her new boss was a complete bully. And he bullied everybody. But she would describe to me that he'd come and he'd be yelling, he'd be demeaning them in front of others, you know, he'd be criticizing them as they walked down the hall and what have you. And I was so impressed with her because she said, yeah, he was yelling at me down the hall. I just turned around and I said, stop it, that's not acceptable. I'm not going to talk to you when you're talking to me that way. And she stood her ground and the bully stopped for her. So it can help. If you don't feel safe doing that, then think about, you know, approach your supervisor. If your supervisor's the problem, go to HR, go to take it one step above if you need to. It's been suggested you could try writing a letter explaining what the person is doing and register it so you have a record that it was sent. You know, personal preference, I'm not sure that I would do that myself, but you know, go get help. Go get somebody to help you if it's happening to you, or if you see it happening to someone else, help them. So what do you do as a coworker? So here's what coworkers do when they witness bullying. 38% did nothing. 7% isolated the target. So they chilled them out. And 4% sided with the bully. So if you're doing the math, that's 49% of co-workers did nothing at all to help the person who was bullied. So what do we need to do as co-workers? We need to be aware of that. So we need to watch for it happening. So if we have a sense, we can bear witness. In fact, maybe if you see, the bully boss is going to go talk to that colleague of mine, and I want to support them. So I'm going to go walk over so that the bully can see me and see that somebody is watching what's happening. So you can bear witness. You can keep a record of what you observed. I saw for the 8th time in one day the boss coming down and talking to Jen and saying her work was not good and worse, using inappropriate language, yelling. So you can keep track of that stuff as well. It'll be helpful in the whole process. You want to make sure you're giving the target your support and empathy. So having a conversation with them, asking them, why do you feel the way you are? Yes, I'm here to support you. I understand how you're feeling. But let them know that you're kind of there for them. And if you, again, if you can't stand up for the target. And so that may mean I'm going to, when they have a meeting with HR to talk about this, I'm going to go with them. And I'm going to be, I'm going to say, yes, I've seen this. Yes, it is happening. So, and as an organization, organizations bear tremendous burden here. I think it starts with, ideally you create an environment or culture where this never happens. But you certainly have to have a respectful workplace or anti-bullying, anti-harassment policy. So, and you have to enforce it. I've seen organizations with great policies and they just don't follow through. So you have to enforce it. You need to think about a complaint resolution process. So you need to do things like, same with harassment, define what it is, give examples of what it is so that people understand what it is and what it isn't. You want to think about what is the process if you think this is happening to you. Who do you report to? How do you report? What's going to happen once you report? And make it an environment where there will be no retaliation for someone who comes forward and says, I think this is happening. So people aren't scared of reprisal if they come forward. And then a fair process for investigating and looking at, what are we going to do now, making decisions in terms of next steps. So if you can think about how we're going to investigate, who's going to investigate, all those kinds of things. Part of what you also need to do is you need to educate people on what harassment and bullying are and what to do if it's happening. So you have to educate them on the policy and how to handle these situations. So, if you're a boss and one of your employees comes and says, my colleague is bullying me, what am I going to do? How am I going to talk to them about this? So having some training in that. I think it also goes beyond that. If you want to really create a respectful workplace, you might think about giving your people skills like conflict resolution, maybe emotional intelligence, how to communicate with each other, how to mediate, how to negotiate, so that people have other tools in their toolkit rather than bullying and harassment to resolve issues. You also want to take complaints seriously. Don't just brush it off with, oh, you're too sensitive, you're a weakling. Those are some of the things that they may be thinking, even if they're not saying it. So investigate thoroughly, stressing confidentiality and no retaliation, of course. And you're going to need to use the reasonable person. So if someone said that to me as a reasonable person, would I take that as bullying? So when they give you their examples, use that standard. And, my last word is always take action. Don't brush it under the table. Again, the statistics are horrible. So many bullies stay in the job, and they leave a wake of casualties. And it's very sad. And sometimes they get promoted, Oh, they make themselves look so good, they overwork their people so much that they get promoted, which
Well,
is
it's not with
right
competition, but
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, one of the things you need to be aware of, Alberta has just submitted a bill, it's been presented in Parliament, or in the legislature. But it's a bill against workplace bullying and harassment. It says everybody's going to have policies on this. So it's, I don't think it's been passed yet. Does anybody know? Has it
No,
passed?
not yet.
Not yet. But if it passes, you're going to have to establish a policy and you're going to have to investigate all these complaints. Remember, bullying is a form of harassment. So it is coming. So, you know, if your organization doesn't have a policy, you might want to get working on one. So I want to give you a chance now to think about this. So I talked a little bit about, you know, what the individual can do, what the coworkers can do, but I want to give you a chance to have a robust discussion at your table groups. You know, when you go back to work, what do you think you're going to take away, and what do you think you're going to do to help with this situation of harassment and bullying in the workplace? So I'll give you a chance to kind of think about how can I apply all of this, okay? So I'm going to give you a good 10 minutes and then I'll go table by table and you'll see a high level of what you've discussed and what you're going to do. So did you come up with some good ideas?
Yes.
It's always hard to interrupt these good conversations. So does any table want to go first and volunteer to share some of their ideas? I love when I ask for volunteers. Thank you.
Go making mine low.
Yeah, that's true.
One of the things I found at my last place, respect harassment and bullying, the hardest part is doing the investigation because both situations are he said, she said, she said, it's one against the other. And often nobody, as you stated, want to corroborate with the situation that I'm thinking about. I had suggested, now I know on our shop floor, there was enough turnover that once a year they did a toolbox talk on our harassment policy. When the issue came up between the supervisor and a young girl, where she was actually accusing the supervisor of having conversations with other people both within the company and without, she indicated that she was on drugs and that's why she lost so much weight. The investigation was extremely difficult because nobody admitted to ever hearing about it. The supervisor said, "You know me better than that. I wouldn't say anything like that." In the back of my mind, I go, "Yeah, you're a workplace bully," but I can't say that to her face. Now, this young girl had accused everyone from president, HR, all the men. By the time she was done, all the managers had had a conversation where she walked by and heard these comments being made. I had gone to the president and said, "Look, yes, everybody gets policy when they first start, but we've never done anything on it. I would like to do a session because I'm not getting anywhere. Nobody's corroborating, everybody's denying. I've just got these two people, and this is significant. There's a kernel of truth of something. Something is going on, whether it's actually supervisor telling other people that she thinks she's on drugs or not. There is something going on, and this is the way this individual feels. This is what she's telling me is happening. I want to do a session reiterating professionalism, our harassment policy, our bullying policy, respectful workplace." Yeah, she said no. Everybody got it when they were hired. We're all professionals. We don't need it. That was the end. They laid her off. But it was just very frustrating because, I mean, she's accused everybody from the president on down. And now I really understand. He wanted nothing to do with it. He wanted me to deal with it, but he never gave me tools to deal with it.
And the bully, the person making the comments, if we believe that may have happened, probably went and told everybody. So, you know, why is she hearing it?
She was well known for it. She had,
Made up
for
her
probably the last 6 months, been trying to get a young girl fired in the first place.
Mm.
So already knowing what's going on and how this individual felt about the other individual, I already knew she was a bully. She had an end game. But even knowing what her end game was, I was never allowed to do anything. So in effect, I think the whole legislation, the knowledge that there's going to be a process mandated, I think going forward in the next place of work, that's going to be
For you, it would have been helpful to have.
tremendously. But when you've got people who are denying it, and there had to be something there. There was something there for her to go off to the extent she went on.
And I think one of the things we can also do is, as we're talking to people about bullying and harassment, like we're doing training, actually tell them, what if you think it's happening to you? Keep records, like get them, because unless they have concrete examples, on such and such a date, the person said this, it is very hard to prove. And even then it's he said, she said, but again, at least, you know, I mean, if somebody's written down 2 pages of comments in 2 consecutive weeks, you know, that would take a lot of effort to fabricate. So, you know, I think if they can present that kind of evidence, it's helpful.
I just think it's a little further. I think the knowledge and the training that you spoke to a little earlier, and what if I was in a position in my organization, is to provide the tools and the know-how so that you recognize you're intentional about what you're doing and you know how or where to go. Because we might know the terms, but we don't, I for one, I didn't know a lot of difference between the harassment and the bullying. If I was observing it, I know that I want to do something about it, but how do I know if it is actually a bullying incident? What is the course of action? And so providing this knowledge, the resources and the tools is really important. And for the HR department or the HR folks, along with the buy-in from the anyone who's really higher up, I think it would do a lot of good in an organization.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, how about you guys? What kinds of takeaways did you have?
Just like, I think clarifying to our team members at the orientation session that we do, with examples of what bullying can look like, because we talk about harassment a lot, but it's so blatant, like people just like know what it is, so if it ever does happen, like we find out about it, but I just have a feeling there's a lot more bullying going on that we ever, because we're off site so we don't see it, and I know there's more than we ever hear about, so I think just making it clear with examples like this is, you know, if someone's like refusing to help you specifically all the time, that's bullying, like that's something against you, you should like bring it up. So clarifying with our team members right when they come on with us about what that looks like.
Yeah, great, thank you. And anything else from your teammates?
Yeah, and I think it's very important to have internal policy regarding harassment and bullying to let employees understand what is the procedure and what is the tool they can use to protect themselves from bullying and harassment.
Yeah, you got it, yeah. Okay, thank you. How about you guys? Who's the back?
Pretty much the same as what we've already heard. I guess one of the things that we talked about here is it's about creating a culture of it's okay to bring these notions forward. We also talked about having the onboarding process and things like that, but then reinforcing that throughout the career of the employee, making sure that it's not something they shove away in their desk on day one and never look at it again.
Yeah, great, thank you. Anything else from your table? Thank you very much.
I thought the other side, so I mean, most of us here are the HR person,
So, well, like this is happening, we have policies like what standards? I guess would be my question.
Right, so what do we do to kind of make it? I think we need to do things like a good job of exit interviews.
Like inspiring?
Well,
Or if you're talking to people.
if you don't know if it's going on, or is the situation you know it's going
Well,
on?
I'm
or-
thinking, okay, great, so I have this staff meeting, we've told everyone all of these bullying, we have policies now. Someone comes in and tells me it's happening now, what do I do?
Mhm. Yeah, you have to have your process, for investigating, looking into it, having conversations, looking to witnesses, as you would with harassment.
Like what are we doing, like what am I, like what do you recommend?
Well, there have to be consequences for the bully. If it is found out someone is bullying, I think you would go into performance management. To have the ability to change, give them fair process to try to change, coaching, training, whatever it takes. But if you can't turn them around, or if it's significant enough, maybe you are making the decision to terminate. The thing is, when it's harassment and it's based on grounds for discrimination, people can turn to human rights. If there's physical violence threatened, they can turn to the police. But with bullying, they've got no one. So they don't have any external process like that. So they're counting on us to investigate and make a decision.
And I think, if I could interject, it depends on the personality of HR in the organization. Because there are organizations where HR, with all due respect to us all, is there to support management. And if that is the situation, then good luck to the human being that is caught in the crossfires, because there is already an agenda. So my first question is, who am I as HR? Am I for the people, as should be my duty, regardless of rank, regardless of title? Or am I here to enforce the policies of senior management, because at the end of the day it is about the productivity and it is about the earning? If you're in a comfortable position to answer that question, then you're going to know the space that you have to operate in. And if unfortunately some of us find ourselves bound, that we're there to enforce the policies, then it becomes a very useful. Because HR technically goes to bat for what is right, regardless if it's a director, a vice president, or the part-timer on the shop floor. And, as far as I am concerned, and now I'm talking as an frontline HR, I'm talking as a human being, I would go to bat anytime, regardless of personal consequences, but that is a very personal decision.
So we get involved in a lot of things, and so to answer your question, do an investigation, find out whether bullying did or did not take place, whether it was based on protected grounds, and it's also discrimination, right? It's saying be one and the same. And if it's not on protected grounds, then it's bullying, and then you determine whether you're going to the bully through performance management and what. Like, is it just the first step, a verbal warning, how serious was it? Does it go straight to written, or do you give them a last chance? So it depends on the severity. But you put the bully, if they are found to be culpable, into a performance management track. And if it's severe enough, you might even go to termination, it all depends. If, however, and this is what we find a lot when we do bullying investigations, Claudia said something really powerful. Teach people who are feeling bullied not to bully back. 50% of the time, it's unclear who got bullied here. Oftentimes the alleger was more bullying when we talk to witnesses than the respondent. So in that situation, like, it's not often black and white. And so then you might have to put both of them in. And then when we hand over our findings report, the HR group then tends to, or the HR manager has to do some kind of mediation work to get these, because if these people have to continue to work together, good luck if you don't mediate. Some expectations going forward. Some options might be they can't work together anymore, so you may have to find other positions in other areas where they don't have to contract. Like every situation is different. That's why it's complex. You're asking the right question. Yeah. You have to investigate, determine, it's called guilt, and then make a decision how you're going to manage performance.
Yeah, and the statistics aren't great for the people who are bullied. So many of them leave the organization for one reason or another. Often it is the person being bullied who gets transferred, not the bully. So if they can't work together. So, and I'm a big believer that some bullies are born, for lack of a better term, and some are made. Some people have had poor leadership themselves. They have been bullied by their bosses. They now think this is the way that I lead and manage. And so those are the ones where I think that, if they learn that they've done something wrong and we give them the tools they need to do better, and they're willing and able to make those changes, but the ones who are habitual, you'll know as you begin your investigations. One of the things you might want to consider is, bullying investigations really are tough. As Juliana has said, sometimes you don't know who started what. But you may want to bring in somebody who has an expertise in investigating those situations. Sometimes it's easier to bring an external resource to those situations. But yeah, you've got to figure out, are they guilty or not, and what are we going to do about this? And take action. That's why I said take action. Don't let it just lie. Slap on the wrist and never talk about it again. Any other questions? I think we've got a couple of minutes.
Oh, yes, yeah, there's a lot of psychological factors that play here, and we're not really trained to be psychologists. So certainly bringing in neutral third parties that have some of that background, it really helps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think the action plan is also very important as a follow-through, because it's a reinforcement of the policy if I have one, and the process holds true for everyone else. I build this confidence that if I am in that situation, I will see some sort of outcome. Even if it's not the perfect outcome at the end, but it's the process that also builds this confidence of, well, we're going to address it. We're just not going to sweep it under the carpet. And this is what happened in the organization that I worked for, is the fact that it was a lengthy process, and I must admit at some point we were ready to sort of give it up. But the fact that we did see results at the end was very gratifying, and it was a teaching moment for everyone.
I have a comment about some of the nuances. At the University of Alberta, when I did 8 years ago, they hired me to do an educational training work across campus for a respectful and inclusive workplace. There's a bullying task force, because in academia, you're supposed to challenge and debate, professor to professor. But where is it debate, and now when is it personal? And so the task force even got down to the nitty-gritties around saying eye rolling in meetings, if it's done, like body language. So I know Wade King at the Office of Human Rights, he's even said, when you walk in the morning and the other person doesn't acknowledge you, that's a form of disrespect. And if there's a repeated pattern of that. But I'd also caution you that some bullies don't know that they're bullying. So in my conflict management classes, I've had a number of gentlemen and women who have said, I was accused of bullying years ago, and I had no idea. Had that person not come to me and said, stop what you're doing, when you do this, I feel bullied, they would have continued to do it to this day. And so there's some real opportunity for us to start to educate people around what this means and what they can do about it, to create conversations earlier rather than having to document and feel, our confidence is being stripped. And so, yeah, I'm so glad we're talking about this today. Because those little things matter.
And I think that there's a generational component that comes in as well. Because certainly depending on our generational background, there were behaviors that in my generation as a baby boomer were considered normal. That most of you, actually all of you in this room would absolutely not accept today. And so, you know, the fact that there's 5 generations at work at the same time today, that is an added psychological dimension because none of those generations use the same vocabulary, the same body language, and none of them understand where their handoff is and what is acceptable and what is not acceptable.
And to add to the complexity, there's also the cultural
Oh,
integration part, right?
Totally.
So with the ever-changing how
And
we live
ebb
and
and
now
flow
is what is acceptable with some, and I've been talking with one employer who was sharing with me that I was in a session which was incredibly informative about Indigenous relations, and she was sharing with me her experiences with interviewing and where she was totally taken aback, for example, by eye contact that wasn't made. That was a total sign of disrespect because she's in a position of some kind of authority, so it's that as well.
Because that can become
Exactly.
intimidating, right?
Exactly, and so if you don't recognize that you're doing it, that's an added, that's an added part to it. I'm sure.
Just have a quick question. We positioned this combination of topics that with the rise in what Juliana talked about of layoffs, of mass terminations, of people being let go, there was an incidence and a rise in either bullying or harassment. So I'm curious, why do you think that is? Why do you think organizations, companies, groups are reporting that there is more incidence of this kind of negative behavior when they have been themselves subjected to terminations?
Well, self-protective behavior is what it is, right? You don't want to be the next one laid off, so you try to rise, but put down people at the same time, probably.
Okay. I'm curious, I'm just wanting to hear back from you because I don't have an answer, but we've seen the two kind of do this at the same time.
I think sometimes it's stress.
Okay.
So like I find right now, like you watch the news and the budgets that are coming out and people are worried about their jobs, they're worried about their home finances, they're worried about the world, the economy, like it's very stressful. And sometimes stress brings out the worst in people, they just don't deal with it properly. So, you know, maybe you're not gonna target you put your stress onto other people. And so sometimes your behavior is not right because you're under a lot of stress and it's partly the survival of the fittest kind of a thing, so.
Okay.
I think another part of it is the rise in politics of homelessness.
That's a very interesting slide.
I read an article this morning that there was a group of spring breakers down in Mexico who actually, they were down in Mexico and on a cruise or something. In Mexico, US citizens saying, build the wall, chanting, build the wall, down in Mexico. So it's, I think a lot, you know, I mean, there's a number of politicians that when I look, I've seen bullying. And not just in the US. There's many countries where you're seeing this, and they're not all dictators, but no, and I think the rise of this and the protectionism, whether it's within the company or within the country, is instigating a lot of backlash.
the reason probably is because employee has more and more awareness about harassment and bullying. At the same time, the organization also has more and more awareness about the damage of the harassment.
And that is an important point, because we all want to be employers of choice, right? So we can attract the brightest and the best talent. It's very difficult to be seen as an employer of choice if all of a sudden the grapevine starts talking. So thank you, I appreciate the insights. Because I was really wondering.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Turn things over to Nicole.
Thank you. So I mentioned to you at the beginning that we were extremely lucky to have these two fantastic individuals to be part of our closing session, and I can't begin to thank you enough. Juliana, for having been such a partner from the get-go, thank you. You don't know, but you signed up for the Claudia for coming in, and by default, now you have to continue. So there'll be many more. To all of you, and particularly to our partner, ECBO, thank you very much for having been such a wonderful partner in crime. I hope the sessions have been useful. I hope you've all gotten tips, suggestions, best practices, and like I said, we will be back in the fall for the phase 2, where it's going to be depth and much more hands-on work. So to everyone, thank you very much on behalf of the talent pool, and again, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.